it will not allow me to put it at any other dimension. So if I just want to type in, say 6'4", and since I have dynamic input activated, I can just enter it right there on the screen. Notice if we come down to our block properties and we look at the window width, it's not 6'4", it's 5 foot. That's because it set it to that predefined width of 5 foot. That was the biggest one. Now, you can define the blocks to actually have the ability to be whatever length you want it to be. But in this case, it's got a preset number of settings that you can use. And the reason for that is just so you can enforce some office standards. Many times you're going to create blocks and you want to make sure that whoever uses them, that they use standard sizes. So that's what that's for. So again, here on the height, I can stretch around the height. So I can change the height, I can change the width, and I can change the location of this block. So that's one of the cool things about a dynamic block, and we've looked at that in a previous lesson, that if we were going to kind of create a window, for example, that was a regular block, you'd have to scale it or explode it or things like that to get the same result. So dynamic blocks are great. Some additional blocks just to kind of look around. You've got your door for a floor plan. And if you click on the door block, you can kind of see your different grips. Now here we've got a few different parameter control points here. We have these little arrows, or flip arrows, and they allow you to flip the block. So in this case, we can change which side that the door swing is on and things such as that. We have, here's another linear control. We click on that and we see this is to adjust for the wall thickness that we insert this block in. So we can insert it in different size walls if we would like. And then here we have a little drop down that allows us to select these different amounts of opening, degrees of opening of the door. And this is a little lookup button or control. So we can change it to be 45 degrees. We can change it to be 90 degrees. We can even, if we'd like, tell it to be closed. So that's another one. And again, we can adjust the width if we would like also. Okay. So you see that we already have several blocks that we can use before we even really learn how to use dynamic blocks or how to create our own. Here's several that we can use. And in this palette, they're both in the imperial and they're in metric. So you can use whichever one you need to right there. Here's one for a stud. You can insert it and you can see that you can pull down and you can change it to 2x4, 2x6, whichever one you would like, and you have your stud. You can stretch it this way and change kind of like a header or something like that. You can change how wide, how many it takes or whatever if you want to create a beam or something like that. So that's really cool right there. Again, we have another little lookup. We can tell it a number, 1 through 4, for our block. So again, that one's included. We got vehicles that we can put in. We're going to have to zoom out a little bit here. And again, if I want to change the insertion point, I can always hit B for base point, maybe grab it by the quadrant of this tire, move it where I want to go. And if we click on the block, we have a lookup control that allows us to change the type of car, and if you're looking at the side, the top, front, rear, whichever one you may need. So this is really cool because it allows us to just have this one block and use it in many different ways. And basically on our tool palette, it's just one block right here. I don't have to have a whole palette of cars and of different sizes and shapes and views and all that. So that's real cool. So same thing here. You already have some annotation blocks that you can use that are already dynamic blocks. So you got some section callouts you can put on your drawing. And if you select it, you can see that you can change. You can turn the flag on or off if you would like. So we can turn it off or we can turn it on up here. We can change the length of it. We can flip it. And this little circle one is actually a rotate. So we can come in here and we can rotate to whatever angle we need the section tag to be at. And these blocks contain attributes, so we can double click and we can change the value if we would like to match, whichever sheet applies to our drawing. So that's a very useful tag that you can use. You got all kinds of tags in here that you can use. So I would just come in here and play around with them. And that's what I would suggest you do in this lesson, is just to kind of go and look at blocks that you already have at your disposal. Get used to using them. Here's a really cool one for doing a road. I can drop it in there and we can change the length, and this is where something comes in handy, like if you want to put in this road intersection. The insertion point's out here. Again, change our base point, tell it that we want to go from this endpoint, and then we can snap to this endpoint, and we have our intersection placed where we want it. Okay, well that's it for today's lesson. Oh, well, let me show you one other one. This is used quite often, so just so you know that it's here. We have our I-beams and we have our wide flanges in here, and what's cool is that we can insert those in. I have to zoom in some, and there's a lookup table, so we can find all kinds of different shapes in here. So whichever one you're using, you can pick it, and it'll change to be the actual dimensions of that particular steel member. So that comes in very handy if you're doing steel or architectural detailing or something like that. All right, well, good luck, and until next time, just keep practicing and working on your productivity.